Good morning, Bapak Ibu. Let me, in this occasion, present my research report entitled Translanguaging in an English Oral Examination, Teachers' Beliefs and Practices. So this article is presented in Konferensi Linguistik Tahunan Atmajaya 21 that is held in 20 to 22 of June 2023. Okay, so as we have known that monolingual assumptions has been a common belief and dominant perspective in the practice of foreign language teaching and assessments. But many experts say that the assumptions do not necessarily reflect real teachers' practices and beliefs. And some studies reported that teachers cannot apply monolingual approaches in the classroom due to their communicative incompetence. And the monolingual approaches in language teachings that were dominant before the 1990s were challenged by several researchers, by several applied linguists, especially considering the researchers focused on emphasizing the social turn in applied linguistics. And the implication from monolingual to multilingual views in applied linguistics make a shift from the structural approaches to post-structuralist ones. So in the structuralist perspective, language is seen as isolating words from larger social entities and spatio-temporal contexts, including social, political, and cultural entities. So language is seen as the mental locus, focusing on grammar as internalized and providing speakers with a representational meaning-making systems. However, in post-structuralist approach, language is seen as opened to negotiated and constructed meaning in multilingual interactions without being biased toward predefined meanings. And translingualism has been considered as the consequence of the adoption of post-structuralist paradigms. So this practice was developed based on the assumption of spatial orientation that inserts communication in space and time, acknowledging all resources as working together as an assemblage and shaping meaning. So this kind of notion consider communication that is not limited to verbal resources, but employing other semiotic resources, including body features in the interaction process. So this the embracement to this notion made the shift from monolingual and multilingual perspectives to communicative strategies. And actually, translanguaging has been practiced in diverse contexts and fields like code meshing, till polylingual languaging in sociolinguistics, and also some contexts of translanguaging practice like academic reading and writing till indigenous literacy. It means that actually the practice of translanguaging has been popular, has been used in diverse contexts, but with different names and terms. And even the popularity of translanguaging in a diverse context, but the application of these principles in language assessment is still controversial. But efforts have been made to incorporate translanguaging principles in assessment, but of course it is still rare. Okay, some experts who have done who has who have observed the potential of PL perspectives in language assessment, like Dendrinos, which observed the use of interlinguistic mediation in language assessment, and Lopez and friends that see that translanguaging can be used to create content assessment that build on bilingual students' sophisticated language practices. So in this case, the researchers see the urgency to improve existing assessment designs and develop new ones that are sensitive to bilingual students' heterogeneous nature. So this the current study try to investigate the teachers' beliefs and practices of translanguaging in the English oral examination and the function itself in meaning negotiation. So here is the literature review. So we know that, yeah, translanguaging is the extension of multilingualism that acknowledges the simultaneous coexistence of languages in people's everyday communication and seeks an ecological approach to viewing multiple linguistic identities. So this kind of pedagogy try to see language is not a separated entity, but it is the full linguistic repertoire. We try to, this kind of pedagogy tries to respect the full individual's linguistic repertoire in the classroom. So uh, some experts say that this notion can be traced back to the practice of Welsh pedagogy, which promotes the utilization of learners' language repertoire in classroom activities by Becker. And then there are two perspective or two domains that can be used to say the translanguaging. It can be treated as sociolinguistic phenomenon where we now recognize that there is no any it is rare to find the monolingual communities in today's super diverse communities. And also it can be seen as the pedagogical stance that try to utilize the individual full linguistic repertoires in the classroom. Right. So yeah, even we see the fast development of translanguaging in foreign language pedagogy, but unfortunately, it faces slow progress in the language assessment since many teachers say that tests should be administered under monolingual assumption that consider language as separate entity. So it is a status quo. Language assessment still in foreign language teaching still use the status quo that privilege a particular language and in the case of another. And but however, researchers have started integrating translanguaging principles into classroom assessments. Yeah, such as, for example, students have access to multilingual instruction or give responses with their full linguistic repertoire, or maybe uh, the use of source text in the first language and the text taker formulated responses in the target language. So it is the utilization of students' linguistic repertoire, existing linguistic repertoire. And translanguaging assessment is expected to facilitate learners to communicate with interlocutors with different linguistic backgrounds. And methodology, it is conducted in pesantren, which claim to apply an immersion bilingual education. And here are three criterions, three characteristics of this institution. And then, yeah, I took an English teachers, which who conducted the oral test on 4th and 9 June 2022. And I used three data collection methods: questionnaires, structured interviews, and custom observations. And yeah, this is the data analysis. So I can see that, yeah, in the findings, after analyzing the data, I found that monolingual view is still salient in the teacher's belief on language assessments. Not surprisingly, because yeah, this goal uh, what has the policy, yeah, has the policy to implement what monolingual view in language assessment. So here, teachers' perception on the language assessment practice reflect the old-fashioned tradition, of course, that see languages as separated entities. And most participants prefer English as the main language in the English exam, but uh, the use of other languages possible, but should be in a minimum frequency. So here, only one teacher believes that using languages other than English is a common norm. So it is, yeah, most teachers believe in monolingual view, and yes, they hold the monolingual view because they see that English language proficiency should be used to categorize students based on their proficiency uh, in English reflected in common English proficiency. Yeah, some interviews about this. And then the results of examination will inform the effectiveness of language learning within the period. Yeah, this is the what why they hold monolingual view. And of course, the use of the target language should become a kind of the seriousness of the program. But so in this case, translanguaging is considered as a problem since it indicates the students' lack of competence and preparation. And this beliefs was influenced by the teachers' belief that uh, the institution the, give the pressure that the students should use the target language in the uh, English examination. But here, how happen naturally can be strategy as fraction. So it's different. They can use here uh, language practices in the language assessment. So it is very rare. And translanguaging practices occur in special instances like when they encounter with a student with low level English proficiency, so they can translanguage uh, to scaffold the communication with this type of student. Of examination, the teacher switch to other language code switching, and also they use semiotic resources like illustration, showing things, and then yeah, they try to keep it meaningful. So the function of translanguaging in this research show that yeah, it can help teachers to scaffold the students. The teachers can motivate or can scaffold students to speak, to say something in the oral examination. And also, yeah, it is a way to provide the poor students with learning experience in the exam. So the students can learn something in the examination room in this case. So yeah, examination is considered as the assessment for learning. And then translanguaging can increase, motivate students to take the exam more confidently. When the students get stuck, for example, yeah, translanguaging can be the solution to help them decrease the nerve. And translanguaging can help students and understand the instruction and decrease the nerves. So yeah, even though many teachers have practiced translanguaging in their teachings, but they still have the monolingual view of language assessment. And yeah, so in this case, the application of multilingual perspective in language assessment is still challenging due to the idea of language compartmentalization and standard language promotion. And there is ambivalent belief and practice here. Teachers still believe that students acknowledge the importance of multilingual approaches in the classroom, but yeah, they prefer using the target language in the assessment. And then, yeah, some practices here. The shuttle between as I mentioned before, that the shuttle between first language and second language using the gestures, yeah, which is common in truncated multilingualism. They use mixed semiotic resources. And yeah, translanguaging have become the norm in current language pedagogy and consider us to prep us to reconsider language assessment that look forward to incorporating translanguaging principles. So here functions one of the conclusion. So yeah, of course, the implementation of translanguaging is still far from successful, but in some cases, the teachers still practice translanguaging, and yeah, there are some functions behind the reason why teachers do this why teachers do the translanguaging in the program, in the assessment. So the study proposes integrating translanguaging practices within language assessment and evaluations, research since multilingual approaches in language pedagogy and evolution are unavoidable, like what we have seen in this research. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you very much.